Okay, so I'm Selma. I'm a creative at Sunshine. I've been there for 2 years now. I had quite a non-traditional way into the industry, actually, which started with the IPA, this very room, 4 years ago. I did a degree in history of art and architecture at SOAS, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life after that. And the only options open to me were like work in a gallery, and that's just not something I wanted to do. And I had a conversation with someone who was like, you know, in advertising, they pay you for your ideas. And I was like, what is this industry? I've never heard of it. Like, honestly, I'd never heard of it. Who knew that you could work in advertising, what it was? So anyway, they were like, you know, you should try it out. So I did a lot of research, and I stumbled across the IPA, amazingly. And they had an ad school scheme. So I submitted an application, which was very questionable when I look back on it now, and somehow was invited for an interview. And I came to the interview, and I was downstairs, and it was mortifying, because there was like a sea of like hundreds of kids, and they all had like massive portfolios, and I turned up, I didn't even have a pen. It was so embarrassing. And I was in the queue, and just before I went into a room, and it was like a room full of like 12 ECDs, and you had to have like a 10-minute chat with each of them. And when I walked in, I was just about to go in, and the boy behind me tapped me on my shoulder, and he was like, where's your portfolio? And I was like, I don't have one. And he was like, you need one. And I literally, in that moment, I was like, shit. And I just walked in, and I went for it. And thankfully, maybe the gift of the gab, I got a place on the IPA ad school scheme for 8 weeks. And from that point onwards, I was like, throttled? What's the word? Thrusted into the industry, not throttled. It's all good.
That comes later.
I know. And then I did placements for 2 years, and I sort of worked my butt off to try and get hired, and it was a nightmare. And then I ended up at Sunshine, and I met Al Makouche, who was one of the most inspiring men I've ever met, and he really made me believe that there was a different sort of, aspect of the industry, because Sunshine is very non-traditional. And from that point onwards, I was like, this is amazing. I got a job there, thankfully, and I've been there for 2 years, working on some really exciting stuff. Like we did the BBC Three stuff with Dave's mates, Tom and Robin, which was amazing. It was very non-traditional. Like we hacked into Live Lounge with Cropped FM, who are like my dream people. They're just so funny. And we got to work with the writers, and it was really amazing. And we did a lot of work for Bailey's Women's Prize Fiction, which was amazing. Created this book that went out to like Whistles and Grazia, and like that was super fun. So yeah, Sunshine's been great. Aside from that, I think me and Dave both share this, that I feel like there's such a, I feel like I'm a bit of a creative entrepreneur, which sounds really cocky. I don't mean to be cocky, but like I really believe in doing things outside of the industry as well, because I really quickly learned that you can't sort of be fulfilled in your job, and that you need, if you go into advertising expecting that to be your only creative outlet, for me, I was like, I'm not getting it, because obviously every day you're shut down, and you can't always be as creative as you want to be. So I do some things outside of work. One thing I do is I have an obsession, me and Jen in the audience have an obsession with URLs, because, like domain names, because we have, like this year, I think I bought 30 in the past 2 months. GoDaddy, honestly, like I got a text there being like, it's been 2 days since you bought a domain. How is this possible? But you know when you have an idea, and I just really feel like when you have an idea, that is like a business for the next 2 months. In my head, I'm like, this is going to change my life. And sometimes it does. I buy the domain name, and then it goes nowhere. So what was one the other day, what you are LL Cool J, which I thought was really funny. But okay, that no one else did. It's fine. Let's moving on. You know that's good. Yeah. You are LL Cool J, and it's a website, and you go on. It's just pictures of LL Cool J. I thought it was clever. Yeah. So sometimes they don't work, and sometimes they do. So when I came out of uni, I started my own streetwear brand, and I ran that for 4 years, called Empire, and I really loved it, and I thought it was such a great learning curve, and I made a lot of mistakes, and then over those 4 years, I sort of, everything that I had learned, I sort of channeled into whatever I was going to do next. So I recently launched my own stationery brand, and it's actually just been picked up by Phoenix and Bond Street, which is really fun. Who knows if they'll actually stock it? They've got the goods, who knows? But it's just really exciting, because it's like someone validating you for the work you do, so that's a good, that's been a good one. You are LL Cool J, I feel like is going to be the next big hit. Also, I'm going to put it out there, honestly, this is genuinely a great idea, so don't steal it, but lethal drizzle, which is hot sauce. I don't think it's great. Thanks, Jen, for laughing. Someone laughed. But anyway, that might go somewhere. Lethal drizzle.
I'll steal that off you.
Yeah, no, please don't steal it.
You've already got the URL.
Yeah, lethaldrizzle.com.
.com.
Yeah. Can you believe that's available?
.co.uk?
Yep, and .info.
The thing is that there's so many more. There's so many more now.
I know, and then I always try and do the clever ones where you do like .es. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's really fun.
Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it will be global. Lethal drizzle.
I don't doubt it.
Affordable hot sauce. I feel like there's a market for it. Anyway, so that's sort of me in a nutshell. And now I'm going to walk off the stage and let Dave do his thing.
Oh, that one. Right, hold on. Let me get all this technology right. Hello? Right. What am I doing? Oh, I've hit end show. Done something. It's a good start, isn't it? It worked. Right. Do a little introduction. That's how you say my name. The phonetics. Buonaguidi. I got into this business, I was lucky actually, I got into this business through my dad. I'm a fat middle-class white boy from London, which does make it considerably easier. What are you laughing at? Why are you laughing so knowingly? But I worked in, my dad is Italian, he had a restaurant in Fulham, and I used to classic immigrant family, you'd always end up working for your dad. And I used to work behind the bar when I was about 14 or 15 and see all these very glamorous people in Fulham coming into the restaurant, Chelsea Way, all from Low Howard Spink. Lots of agencies were in Knightsbridge at the time, and they used to come to the agency and I used to make drinks for them. And my job was to make drinks and then light the cigarettes of women who came up to the bar. So I had this little technique, a little lighter, and I would always just be sitting there practicing, making sure that I flicked it first time and it lit. And I used to watch these people coming in. I remember Frank Lowe from Low Howard Spink used to come in, and he had this fucking mane of hair and this beautiful yellow cashmere jumper, trousers with jeans with the seam down the front, ironed, and then no socks with a nice Gucci loafer. And I was thinking, fucking hell, he looks so good. And he used to come in with these very attractive women, right? And they would eat lunch all day long. They'd say to my dad, Franco, we're going through, which was, we'd just change the tablecloths, we're going to go into dinner. And I said, what the fuck do they do? And my dad was like, advertising, they do it, innit? It's advertising. Advertising. Sadly, the minute I arrived at TBWA in the 80s, that gravy train had pulled out of the station. I worked at TBWA for about a year. It was quite interesting at the time. All the guys who now run BBH were running TBWA. They'd all left. They'd gone to be the guys at TBWA said, "Can we have some shares in the company?" And they went, "No." And so they said, fuck it, we're going to set up our own agency, and they did pretty well out of it. I then went to WCRS, which was quite interesting for a couple of years. Got to say, quite interesting. I'm not going to say anything more than that. Didn't really enjoy it that much. And then I went to HHCL. It was a start-up from WCRS. It doesn't even exist anymore, which is really sad. It was a very cool agency. Went there when it was about 5 people, and I got this insight and this buzz about startups, which I absolutely love. I then got sick of it when it got to about 4 years in. I went to JWT, which is the complete opposite. JWT was this enormous fucking agency. It was like the University of Advertising. And I went there just because I thought, what I really want to do is try and see how much I can apply in a big agency from things I've learned in a small agency, with just different ways of working. Did that for a couple of years, then went back to JWT for about 8 months, and then we got offered the job at Chiat Day, and I was very young at the time, stupidly too young. Chiat Day was the London office. It was the London office of the great American agency. I think I was about 28 at the time, and we went there, and they tried every possible format of person to run it. So they had Americans, they had very, very senior UK people. It just wasn't working. And Tom Knox, who's now the president of the IPA, was working there, and we went down, my partner and I, and Naresh Ramchandani had done a thing called Whose Ad Is It Anyway? And it was like a kind of Whose Line Is It Anyway down at the Comedy Store. And we got absolutely slaughtered, and then just did this sort of stand-up routine with a whole bunch of other people. And Tom and a couple of others, David Abraham, who's talking here as well, happened to be in the crowd, and they saw us and they went, what about those two twats? And I think it was like the last throw of the dice, and they gave us a chance, and it ended up being quite good. And we did that for a couple of years, and then we got sold overnight. We got the phone call saying, you've been sold. And we were like, oh, fuck, what do we do now? Because we were going to get swallowed up by TBWA. And so we ran away and we set up our own agency called St. Luke's. It was quite an interesting thing. It was a cooperative. Again, we were all so young and so stupid, but that was the thing that made it great fun. We set it up as a co-op. We had people in there who were 21, equal shareholders as much as the managing director. Everyone was paid different salaries depending on their jobs, but it was a fantastic experiment that sadly completely failed. But it was great. It was brilliant fun. And then I left there when I got disillusioned with advertising for the first time. I went and became a client at Channel 4 to set up a thing called 4 Creative, and then did that for a couple of years, and then wanted to set up another agency. So I did Karma Armour with Narish, who I'd kind of fallen out with and then got back together again, and we set up Karma Armour in 2000. And then in 2014, what are we now, 16? Yeah, 2014, I just had enough of it. It got to like 300 people. I couldn't stand what I was doing, couldn't stand who I was working with. I fucking loathed every minute of it, and I just thought, I said to my missus, you know, I can't stop, fucking hate it. The only fun I had was when I rode my bike there. And being very indiscreet. I mean, we've already clarified that there's going to be a huge amount of honesty here, but I fucking hated it. And I said to my missus, I don't know what to do. And because I said I've got 3 options. One, I go mad very, very slowly. 2, I go mad very quickly and I kill everybody and I end up in jail. And 3, I just fucking walk out. And I just said, right, I don't want to work here anymore. I'm leaving. And it was the most liberating thing I'd ever done. I had a 1-year non-compete, so I wasn't allowed to work for a year, where I had a dream of becoming an artist and screen printing. And as we talked about, there's some very strange things, right? I've only met you today, and we go way back. And there's so many similarities with what and it makes me feel very young, actually, because I've felt in all the places that I've worked, especially places like HHDL, Charter Day, St. Luke's, and Karma Armour, I've always felt like we've set up businesses, and I've always liked to be in businesses that are on the fringes of the rest of the industry. And that can become very frustrating, because I don't think the UK ad industry, and this is no pump at IPA, but I think it's more of a punch at the magazines, actually. I don't think they celebrate people who are trying to do something different enough. What they do is they tend to just go, oh yeah, we just keep doing it like the big agencies, like they did in Mad Men. Let's celebrate that, which is bullshit. And I think that people who try stuff, entrepreneurs, new business startups, are fascinating, and they make the business so much cooler, so much more interesting for you guys, and more importantly, so much more interesting for our clients. And so I had this. I became very disillusioned after setting up 3 agencies and no longer working at any of them. I then thought, right, fuck it. If I could have my ideal job, it would be as an artist. And I tried to have a year where I could, stupid thinking if I could do it in a year, become a successful artist. And I didn't. But I sort of make lots of stuff, but I had an enormous cocaine habit that the art I sell, I keep giving it away, but the art I sell doesn't pay for the amount of chop that I like to do. And then last year, I was going to set up another business. When I was clean again, when I was out and I could work again, I was thinking of setting up another business that was going to be a sort of very small, nimble startup. And then CP+B came in, and I knew them. They tried to buy us when I was at Karma Armour back in 2005. So I was very aware of Chuck Porter and all of the guys, and I love the brand. And they came in and said, what do you want to do? And I said, this is what I want to do. And they said, why don't you just do it here? And I thought, fuck. And then, strangely, CP+B is like me coming home now. CP+B allows me. I can do more stuff at CP+B than I could ever do at my own agency, which is really annoying for me. But I'm very, very happy. Unless you want to offer me more money, come somewhere else. My mantra is that creativity is the cure. I think that creativity, and I'll come into this presentation a little bit, I'll go into a little bit more detail, but I think creativity is such a fantastic thing, not only for the people who are creative, but also for the clients whose business it will transform. I think that there are lots and lots of confusions that I'll come into again later on about why the business is in such a bizarre state of affairs and doesn't quite understand what it's supposed to do. But I think creativity is the single most important thing that we should all celebrate it much more. And there are a variety of reasons why it is not like that. I talked to Chuck Porter the other day. I did this talk at, and this is sort of the basis of this thing is very similar to the talk I did at Advertising Week last week. I said that advertising creativity in a lot of business is a little bit like faces of meth. It's been gradual decline. when you see the original, the long shot of her from 2001, you know, the 7 years in between, you don't notice it year by year. She just gets mankier and mankier. But when you see the big jump, that is fucking horrendous. And I think that advertising creativity has kind of gone the same way. I think it's really, really poor at the minute. But what's happening is we seem to be dropping our own standards. We don't sit there and go, why is it bad? How can we change that? How can we work with clients in a better way? How can we employ better people? The students that are coming in, why are they not as good as they should be? Why are the colleges just trying to make money out of people? There's a whole bunch of things that kind of lead us to being in the state of affairs that we're in. And I don't know who's doing anything about it. And I remember in my year off, I tried to set up a free school. I'm obsessed by, and one of the things I was really fascinated about meeting you was I'm obsessed by education and the kind of people that we're getting into the business. And I'm trying to set up a free school called Gratis, which is non-paying. So if you're a girl and you're from the outside of the M25 and you are the next creative saviour of any part of the creative industry, you're fucked. There's no way you're going to get into the business. One, because you can't afford to come and work in London or even go to college in London. Most courses now of businesses, they charge 15k to come in. If you're then going to live in London, that's going to cost you another 30k. So you're going to be 45k down in a year, which I think is disgraceful. I'm desperate to try and get this thing off the ground. We're looking to try and get funding from the government, but obviously in an election, it's not a great year to go and ask for them for money. But I think it's really important that we try and work out a way of getting a new type of person. I've got to say, it's really good to see probably a 50-50 mix, 60-40 mix. If we'd been doing this 10 years ago, it would have been 80-20. But it's still not good enough because, you know, I lived on Brick Lane for a long time and backed onto the biggest, most intense Bangladeshi entrepreneurial immigrant sort of culture, and it was electrifying, that area, when 15, 20 years ago. Absolutely electrifying. And I thought, why the fuck would any of these guys ever want to get into the creative industries? They have no reason to. And I think that's really bad. You know, we're on the doorstep of Silicon Roundabout, which is supposed to be the coolest roundabout in the world, in Europe, maybe. But there's people there. Why the fuck would they ever get into the business? Because the only people who can afford to go to college and be educated are nice white kids from London, white boys from London. And they're the ones who fucked it up in the first place. So we don't need any more of them. We need some new people that are going to come in and clean it all up. So anyway, rant, we're going. I think we need a new type of person. We need creative entrepreneurs. We don't need people who want to get into advertising because advertising's fun. We've done that. We need people who are going to come in and understand that it's a business. And we are a business. This is our job. We are employed by our clients to make their businesses better, to make them more successful. More than just a department. You know, you go to some agencies, and I'm sure some of you work there, where the creative floor is on the 3rd floor. Is it still the 3rd floor these days? Used to be when I started, it was always the 3rd floor. If you were an account director or planner, you had to ask for permission to go on it. Well, what the fuck is that about? The kind of the reverence that these individuals were held in. They seemed to be the pillar of the kind of top of the pyramid, and they were the only people, creative people, were the only people that were deemed smart enough to be able to communicate with the great unwashed population, which I think, again, is a fucking joke. Creativity, I think, now has to be much more about, I know it sounds really wanky, but it's like a mindset. It is not about designers and art directors and copywriters all sitting around eating bento boxes on the 3rd floor talking about what they've just seen on YouTube. It is much more about groups of people coming together. It gets really, really ranty. Yeah? Just warning you. And I think it's about a new format of people, more entrepreneurial people who understand the business side of it, but people who are more open-minded in the way that they work together. What have I done? What? But no, it's important I carry on. What have I done? Like I said, it is the most valuable. It was all rehearsed. I think it is the most valuable asset that any business has, whether it's the people that make, the clients that pay for us. Creativity, problem solving, is the single most powerful tool that they've got at their disposal. The people who solve those problems, the companies that set up as a result of that, the agencies, the creative agencies, again, hugely valuable. Now, unfortunately, when you look at the business right now, it's owned by 2 people, Martin Sorrell and the French guy. And they're both accountants. Now, I'm not slagging them off, but I'm just saying that when you bring a different mentality, when you bring an entrepreneurial finance mentality to a business that is inherently creative, it needs to get back into the hands of the creatives. And I think we've got a bit of an issue, which is historically our grandfathers back in the good old days, the madmen, kind of fucked around too much and made us all look like we're idiots that can't understand and can't think above and beyond just wanting to do TV ads, that we're not entrepreneurial or business-minded enough. But creativity, like I said, is hugely, hugely valuable. But unfortunately, we've forgotten what we do. We're employed by our clients. We're a service. I come from a restaurant background. I remember my old man said, when you leave college, you go to art college, which is about the only thing I can do because I was so thick at school, properly dense. I got art and woodwork as my O-levels, and I remember I was sitting there looking a bit stupid in front of my dad when he said, what are your grades? I got art and woodwork. And he said, well, at least you can paint a nice picture of the table you just made. I remember thinking, yeah, right. We're a service. They pay us to make their business better. What we do is we seem to have gone, yeah, fuck that. We're not really that interested in your business. What we like to do is do all the awards, go to Cannes, get off with people we don't know, have all fun. It's all about fun and superficial shit rather than the business that we're employed to do. And I think the minute we fucking understand that and we start employing people or bringing people in who do get that, the business will carry on in the same way that it's going, which is just straight down the toilet. We need to pull that up and start understanding what we're doing wrong and how we can make it better. As I said, it's been corrupted. It's not about, the business isn't about awards and fluff. It's about hard business and knowing the role that we play with it. And now, if that means that you have to then do a whole lot of other creative stuff on the weekends or go around buying URLs with beautiful dreams of selling your business in the future, so be it. You're creative. Your job is to make and to create. And you have to make sure that you can fulfill that sickness that you've got, because creativity is a sickness. You will be sitting there thinking about stuff all the time and not being able to find outlets for it constantly throughout your life. Advertising will fulfill 10% of that. But it's also very nice and a very good learning curve that when you work in the creative industries, a business that employs you to be creative, to learn how to be a professional creative and understand the role that you play in the business. Again, when it's owned by two people who come from an accounting background, what tends to happen is everything gets crushed down as just a commodity. Creativity is not a fucking commodity, it's a bloody important tool, but it just gets driven down because it's all about price and procurement, which is criminal. And I think one of the issues is when you go back to the sins of our grandfathers, when you know, the role that a lot of agencies still play is, I just want to do a nice TV ad. Tell you what, we're going to shoot a nice can we do a 60-second ad? Can we get the bloke who lit Gladiator to light it? Because that'll make all the difference. And as long as we've got loads of bento boxes on hand for us to eat sushi, it'll be great. And then I can tell all my mates in advertising that we just did something with the bloke who shot Gladiator. Because that's really cool, isn't it? It's not. We have to start thinking about how do we step outside of that walled city? Who gives a fuck what people in advertising think? And this is my particular rant about awards. Again, it's so introspective, so inward-facing. It's irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with your client's business. At Karmarama and at St Luke's and Chiat Day, our founding principle, certainly at Karmarama, was no awards policy. We didn't do creative awards. And when clients came in and said, what's this about creative awards? And then you go, well, they're not really that important to your business. And they go, why is that? And you go, well, because it's got nothing to do with your business. That's our business. And then they would go, oh. And then all of a sudden you started having a completely different conversation with the clients because they went, oh, God, thank you. Got somebody who's not interested in selling me an idea and going, it's really creative because it's going to work really well. It's really creative because we're going to go to Cannes and I'm going to win some fucking pointless little statuette that I'll put on a shelf that will gather dust for the rest of its career. It's totally and utterly irrelevant. And we have to start to work out who is our real audience. You're not talking to people in advertising. You can do that at your desk. You're talking to real people who live out there, mums, dads, different coloured people, different sex type of people. I mean, it's different people that require different languages and different ways of communication. And the sooner we get that, it will just make it so much better. What have I done? Can you help me? Right. It's about creating culture, and I think we sometimes think that culture means sitting down looking at funny things that other people have done and then putting pack shots on the end of it. That's not very cultural, that's just fucking lazy. creating real culture. If you're creative, I get really sick of some of these advertising big heads who sit in campaign and go, we must be braver, we must fuck up more. It doesn't really work like that, because clients, when you fuck up on their money, they tend to get annoyed and then they put the business up for pitch. When you fuck up on your own time, if you create stuff, you do, I'm sure lots of you do here, when you make your own stuff and you fuck up on your own time, you're creative, and then you go, oh, I tried doing that. I created this really weird little character that I used to bring to life in little animated films. Fucked it up a few times, now I've got it right. How about we then talk to a client about something I've created rather than something I've stolen or watched on Devour or YouTube. But I've created it myself, I've fucked up myself, and now when we get it, when we do it for you, you'll pay for it and it'll be okay. That's what clients want. They don't want you messing up. So create culture, but learn from your own mistakes. Make it interesting, make it culturally powerful. And that's the thing that I think is the bit that we really need to unlock, because that's the bit when you bolt creativity, culture, and business together, I think you genuinely find something interesting. Oh, God. Right. That thing. Right. So our logo at CP+B is the elephant. And like I said, when I was really not interested in getting back into advertising, but when I went round to the offices and I saw the elephant, I never knew what the story was. Dave Trott did a very good, he actually did a better job than we've done about telling the business about what the elephant means. Basically, it was in the 1890s that circus was the big thing. And when a circus came to town, they'd put all these posters up that would say circus is coming to town with a picture of a clown or an elephant or a tiger on it. And then no one would ever take the posters down because it was all so ramshackle and disorganised. So when you brought a new circus to town, you were sticking your circus posters on top of somebody else's circus posters. And a guy called P.T. Barnum, who was this sort of slightly shady entrepreneur, he used to come into town, he'd walk an elephant through the middle of town. Now, in that era, when I don't think they even had cars, so walking an elephant through was big news, and it was hugely, beautifully cultural, fantastic. And when I heard that, that's what that logo means, is that we discover what your elephant is and then march it through town. I thought, great. That's not about we discover what your brand purpose is and then we do a TV ad around it. We create action through your brand purpose. And I found that stimulating. And I thought, wow, this is the kind of company, this is the fucking place I've always wanted to create and failed miserably at in every part of my career. We have a very strong a-hole-free zone. We tried to have a wanker-free zone at Karma Armour, and then I realised that they kept turning the lights off at night. And so the sign wasn't functional. But we have a very strong a-hole-free zone, which is just making sure that we all pull together and we're all part of one team. I don't like egos, I don't like big heads, I don't like people who want to do their own thing at the expense of everybody else. It really is a very destructive scenario. I like people who will knuckle down, work together, and it's a kind of gang thing that I really like, is getting a whole bunch of people who all understand about what we're trying to do, work together. When somebody falls down, we all pick them up. When somebody's good, we all help them, and just make it is truly beautiful. And I've experienced it at HHCL, all the places that I've worked at. I've always gone through a period, like a purple patch of about 5 to 6 years, where it just felt right, and it was amazing. And you also attract some incredible people, but you get the best out of people. We try and have a very different way of working. So I loathe that kind of, right, the planner goes off for 6 weeks, writes a brief. Because he took 2 weeks longer than he should have done, or she should have done, the creative team's got 2 days to do stuff. It's a kind of Chinese whispers moment when by the time it gets back to the client, everyone's livid, angry, and not right. So we try and work around, it's just common sense, I think I'm sure all of you guys do, working in more interesting ways when you look at every client as individuals. Whether you're selling tights to women or Range Rovers to blokes, it shouldn't always be the same sort of brief. Shouldn't always certainly be the same sort of end result, like a TV ad that's been lit by the bloke who did Gladiator. You've got to make sure that you're communicating with the multifaceted, multi-disciplined, multi-interesting people out there in completely different ways. And I think that means you have to work in a different way, because no individual or no group of 4 or 5 people are going to have all the right answers. So we try and do a thing where you have 4 or 5 people who might know, but then you bring in 8, 9, 10 people who do know. And you just work in much more fluid ways. People don't want to sit behind. I remember when I started, it was like, if you were freelance, it was because you were a loser. Whereas now, if you're freelance, you're in control of your own shit, which is great. I'm a fucking loser because I sit behind a desk all day long. The thing to make to do. I think it's about finding genuinely creative people. I want entrepreneurs, but we also want to find people who make shit. People don't know how to make anything anymore. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, it was so much better in the 1930s when we were getting buzz-bombed by the Germans at night and making our own toys out of scrap metal. It's not about that. It's actually learning how to make stuff. If you can think about stuff and you know how to make it, you will learn stuff that you will be able to apply to your client's business. And then making it bold and making it matter. You know, there's so much shit out there. If you don't stand for anything, if you don't make it stand out, it will just disappear. And the amount of money that our clients spend now, I know is probably a lot less than it used to be, but the amount of money that clients spend is so badly wasted because of lazy creativity, lazy strategy, just laziness in trying to worship the wrong kind of gods rather than thinking, what is the thing we're trying to solve? What is the bloody problem we're trying to solve? What's the noisiest, most effective way that we can do it that's going to be great for everybody? And like I said, I think that there's this sort of process that we judge everything by creativity. If it can become cultural, we kind of go, oh yeah, that would be quite good, wouldn't it? It'd be good if it got lots of likes. That'd be great. We got 1,400 likes. That's good. Great when you start moving into culture. But business doesn't really sort of come into the equation. And one thing that I was really impressed with when I went to Boulder, they got the most amazing offices. Now Boulder in Colorado is where the new sort of epicenter of the agency sits. It was set up in Miami. And I remember talking to Chuck Porter and saying, why'd you set up in Miami? It's a bit of a weird place to set. He goes, oh, it's where I'm from. It's basically like setting up an agency in Aberdeen, because you're from Aberdeen. And then going, we're going to set up a new agency on the Isle of Skye. Why is that? Well, because it's just the opposite of Aberdeen. I mean, he just went, Colorado is middle of nowhere. There's nothing. There's like bears and mountains, and then there's a boat in the car park across the way from these guys who sells weed professionally. So it's all legal over there. He's got an enormous great warehouse. The whole area stinks of puff. But when you walk in, they've got this big banner. And when I saw that for the first time, it made all the hair on my body stand up, because it was the first time I'd seen a creative agency have business at the very forefront of what they did. So all of those things there, they're not great examples, but they had things like, when was the last piece of activity that had just run? The amount of, whether it's trending or not on all the different social media sites, the share price. And as a creative, when I walked in and I went, wow, these people really get their client's business. And I was a client, and I've been a client when I was at Channel 4, walk in there to a really creative space and then see my business up on the wall made me think, fuck, these guys really understand my business. And that's what I'm paying them to do. Not walk in there and see the trophies surrounded by two cute girls on reception. This is what it's all about. This is when you walk in and you get what they're all about. And so we just overlap them all. And obviously the sweet spot is that little triangle in the middle. I just wanted to talk about one brand, which I just think is amazing. My two favourite things over the last 10 years are probably Red Bull, when they dropped that guy out of the spaceship, which was just sort of staggering. And I was lucky enough to get Heidi, who worked on it when she was at Red Bull, to talk at Advertising Week. And it's mesmerising. When you watch that film, it is like fucking unbelievable. And if you get a chance to watch it, you should. It's a really amazing, amazing piece of film. And the way that brand transformed from being an energy drink to an energy brand, that's what we should be employed to do. When they did Domino's made a really, really, the worst pizza in the world. They said it was like cardboard with flavour, and not very much. What they did was the pitch idea was, we're going to take the pizzas around and we're going to get people to try it, and then we're going to film what their responses are, and then we're going to publish them, because we know it's going to be bad. And the client was like, "Are you serious?" And they said, yeah, don't worry, we've got it all under control. So that woman's face, that was one of the better ones. But they gave them these pizzas and they are disgusting. And they all went, this stuff is cardboard, flavourless rubbish. They then put it on the most public of all of the spaces you can imagine. They had it on at Times Square. There's a great big video screen, so their equivalent of Piccadilly Circus, and they had it on there with people saying this stuff is shit, basically. And I think they had a thought around time for change or something like that. So then what they did was they then went back to the same people who'd slagged it off with a new recipe. Changed the recipe, they changed the format, changed everything about their company, and they went back and said, well, we listened. Here's the new pieces, what do you reckon? They just went, wow, it's amazing. Now that was driven by the agency. That wasn't a creative brief saying, because if it was just normal agency-client relationship, they would have said, we need some shit 30-second ads, maybe even 15s, because that's more cost-effective, and we just had procurement have a look at your numbers. Could you do some really cheap shit ads to say that our pizzas are good? Well, you can do that, but it's not going to work. And what they did was they came up with a kind of an advertising idea, but they started a ball rolling that changed the fundamental nature of the company. So the next thing they did was they just thought, all right, now we've got the pizza sorted out, we've got the pizza's good, how can we make it more fun and more technological for you to get involved with? So they created an app where you can make your own pizza, which is a bit of fun. Then they did the tracker. They had this information already in the business, but they never showed it to real people outside. So what they did was they just allowed everybody else out there to see it. So normally when you ordered a pizza, you'd be looking out your window waiting to hear the scooter turn up. Whereas now you can sit there on your phone or on your iPad or whatever it might be, and you know where it is. And that just made it a little bit more fun. Then did the famous emoji thing. Went to the client, said, why don't we create an emoji so you can just order your pizza, log in all your details, you order it with an emoji. Client said, can't do it. Agency said, we can. They spent 15 grand of their own money. They did it, and it's probably added about $1 billion to their share price. Over the last 7 years, the emoji thing has been staggering. They've just done 0 clicks given. So now, when you open the app, you don't even have to touch anything. You've got 10 seconds for that to count down. They know which pizza you like. You literally open the app, and it'll order it for you. They've even just done a deal with General Motors where they've made 1,000 of these things. I thought they were going to turn around and go, yeah, we did 2 prototypes. They said, no, we made 1,000 of them. It's got an oven inside it. So it will make your pizza, you chuck it in there, by the time it arrives at your house, it is roasting hot. But normally what happens is they make it somewhere, and the bloke, you've got a lunatic on a scooter doing 150 down 30-mile-an-hour streets, who then delivers your pizza, and it's just a little bit cooler than it should be. This shit now arrives baking hot. Now, that's 1,000 vehicles. That's not fucking around. That's doing something for real. Now, I've seen this idea. So I've said, let's paint the moon red. Let's stain the Thames gold. We've all seen those ideas. We all do them. That's one thing about getting clients excited. It's about making sure that you push through and you follow on with that stuff so you really deliver it. And I think, again, that's the thing that I'm absolutely staggered by, is it doesn't happen enough because we don't find enough interest in it. But it's moderately easy because clients all want to be involved in great work. And when you talk to them about stuff, make sure that you can work out a way of doing it, because there are ways of doing it. And I suppose my thing is just for you guys, and some of you are running agencies, some of you will be running agencies and companies in the future. But I think the initiative has to be to try and improve it and make it better. I think one of the things that happened over the last few years is we've become so bored. We've become so lethargic about not wanting to change it. I wish there were new agencies that were starting up every fucking week with people going, it's not good enough, we're going to change the way it works. Unfortunately, now what happens is people set up agencies, and they're normally fat little white boys from London who set up agencies and go, we're going to do nothing different, and then we'll sell it to Martin Storrell in 5 years' time. That's the business plan. Which, again, I think is really boring. Doesn't make it great for you guys. Doesn't create interesting places for you to want to go and work at. Certainly doesn't give clients any choice, because clients just move from one average agency to another. And there are very, very few agencies that will stick their heads above the parapet and go, we're going to do something different, and this is why. So it's interesting, again, fascinated to meet you. Sunshine, really interesting. Brings 2 different dynamics, 3 different dynamics to an old-fashioned formula, and it's trying something new. If you were setting up a business today, how different would it be from a business that was set up 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago? Completely different. But we still seem to, we know how to make money. Well, not very much of it anymore, but we know how to run a business. But we just keep cracking on doing the same old shit. And I think there has to be a better way of doing it. I'm sick and tired of setting up agencies and trying to change it. But I think I would love a new generation of people coming through that would sort of sit there and go, it has to be better. Not only for you. How many of you genuinely are really, really happy where you work? You have to put your hands up. It's a kind of internal question. I asked it when I left my own agency, and it was one of the most horrendous things. I remember lying in bed looking up, thinking, fuck, I've set up this business, I've been there for 14 years, and I fucking hate it. And I hate what it's becoming, and I hate what I'm doing. Now, that's your own business. And it was a really, really bad moment for me. To leave it felt very easy. But I think it's one of those things you should think about how stimulated you are when you're at work, especially if you're creative. And I think one of the reasons I left was I hit 50, and I remember thinking, Christ, I've got fewer years ahead of me than I've got behind me. It's going to sound very dramatic. But it was, I've got fewer years ahead of me than I've got behind me. I've probably got another, I don't know, at some stage over the next 20 years, I'm going to be weeing in a bag, rocking backwards and forwards down at the local Tesco or Lidl, going, I used to work in advertising, I did. 20 years, that's not very long. And I think it's about how do you make it better? Because that's the job that we all should be doing. We should be thinking constantly as entrepreneurs, how do we make it better for me? How do I make it better for my staff? How do I make it better for my clients? And how do I make it better for the consumers that are out there? Because that's the only, we are a service. That's the role we have to play. And that is me done. Thank you.
You mentioned turning the Thames red. We could do like a lethal drizzle.
Let's talk about this afterwards.
If you can make it happen.
I know a bloke who can.
Yeah. Okay, on that.
Yeah.
Okay, my first question is, what are you doing within CP+B to make that happen?
It's quite interesting, actually. Suddenly, working for somebody else is actually. I've worked for myself since we did St Luke's Chai at Day, so like a long time. Working for somebody else, you feel a bit of pressure because I've got Chuck Porter comes around every now and then and goes, I don't like that work. I don't like this. And when it was my own business, I was always worried about. You have so many other things to worry about. I was worried about salaries. The minute you employ somebody, and when it's two of you, you can do whatever you like. The best work I felt we ever did at Karma Armour was in like the first 2 years, when there were like 3 of us. When it got really big, the minute you start employing somebody, you just turn around and there's somebody going, what about me? What about me? I want a pay rise. My LinkedIn profile's not very good. It's just one thing after another, and then you're suddenly having to earn loads of money, and it becomes like a bucket. I remember Steve Henry described it once when they set up Hal Henry. He said it's like a bucket that's got lots of little holes in the bottom, and at some stage you'll discover that the bucket is no longer a bucket, it's just a tube, and the water just goes all the way through without touching the sides. And working for other people I actually prefer it because I'm a pleaser. Working for myself, I just found, I've done it so long, but I just found it so difficult. Working for somebody else, you kind of know what you've got to do. And so my job now is just to make the best work possible. And I actually find it totally liberating because you can talk to clients and go, my only agenda is to do amazing work for you. And then they go, what do you mean by amazing? And you just go, well, amazing work. It's not amazing work that's going to win me an award. It's amazing work that's just going to transform your business.
Did you still go to Cannes?
I went to Cannes first time last year. I hated it.
Why did you go?
I had to because I'd just been hired by CP+B and they enter awards.
Yeah.
And
so entering awards with CP+B?
I don't know. I said when I went there, I said, listen, it's like awards are like kryptonite for me. And I went to Cannes and I stayed at my mum lives up the road. And I stayed there. I couldn't stay in. It was difficult.
Even on shit.
It's all right. I think. But
I didn't say anything, so it's fine.
I don't like it. But it's a personal thing. I think it's just because I think that the superficial side has got nothing to do with the business. It's good. My thing was always, if you can build a good relationship with the client, do great work, build an even better relationship with the client, constantly improve the work. It's an entrepreneurial process that can take 2 years. And if you do some work at the end of that wins you an award or is worthy of winning an award, great. Take the afternoon off. The thing I hate is what happens in the business now, which is no one gives a fuck about the middle bit of the sandwich. All they care about is, I want to win an award.
Yeah.
And the stuff in the middle is the juicy bit that clients pay you for.
Yeah. So your creative department at the moment,
Yeah.
what is it like? Describe it to me.
When I arrived, I've got to say, it was a bit like buying a house off the internet. But I didn't do any research.
Yeah.
I'm stupid like that. But it wasn't fit for purpose. And we've got a really good, interesting department now. Lots of young, very first jobbers. When we're talking about Tom and Robin, who are a couple of guys that you work with at Sunshine, who I love dearly. We got them fresh out of college. And so I really enjoy that. I'm not I'm going to say dictator, but then you're going to look at me. But I don't think I am. I like kind of, employing good people and then letting them be good. And then I'm not interested in doing all the TV ads while they're struggling doing, all the other stuff. And so a lot of it is just get smart people in and just let them be good. And so we've got a really interesting, quite disparate department. We've just hired these two amazing tech guys who are really odd. From a very different kind of company. I remember when I went to Chiat Day, I said I never want to hire an English person again because I was immigrant and the bloke I worked with, it was Indian immigrant. And we said, don't ever want to hire an English person again. It was quite a nice discipline because you just find, the minute you cut out the problem, you just find interesting. And I don't mean that in a nasty way, but it was like, at the time, London was dominated by agencies who like to do very witty word plays. It would be like playwrights all sitting around smoking fags going, ooh, listen to this pun.
I do love puns, though.
Well, fucking, I couldn't get it. Just didn't understand it, and I didn't like it. And so we just said, well, if we just hire some people who aren't like that, then we won't end up doing that kind of work. And the way we're trying to do it at CP+B now is never hire anybody from advertising. So you just don't get people from that pond.
You have to fire people, then.
Did I have to?
Fire, yeah.
Yeah, you have to. You would do that. You'll be good at it.
I would actually.
You're going to be good at it.
Yeah, babes.
Fine. No, but yeah, you have to. I mean, it's like at some stage, you have a bar.
Do you have female creatives?
Yes, we do.
How many?
Not enough.
What does that mean? Does that mean one?
Well, we've got a department of me, one young team of lads, two young teams of lads. Yeah. And one girl, a girl within the team.
Intern.
Yeah, she is at the minute, but we'll hire her if we get the money. But I think it's a good question. Yeah. But it's like, I was having this conversation the other day. If colleges aren't bringing out enough good people, whether they're women, black, lesbian, blokes, disabled, whatever it is, if enough of those people aren't trying to get into the business, I'm not going to sit there and just hire somebody and go, oh God, we need to hit our targets.
Yeah.
We need a black disabled lesbian.
Yeah, by the way, no, you'd be surprised.
There are none of them.
I got an email exactly like that at one point in my life, not so long ago. I think, there's a fine line between being tokenistic and actually hiring for talent.
A business to run. Yeah.
But I'm intrigued to know what you are doing to try and to create a more diverse environment.
I'll tell you what we're doing. One other thing we're doing is we used to do an arts auction at Karma that since I left they don't do anymore. We used to raise quite a lot of money for one of our charities. Now we're doing it this year and we're going to raise enough money to find somebody and put them through college. Just think, well, if I could raise 15 grand and we can find somebody that we really think should get in. No colleges, well, very few colleges, and colleges say they do it, but I don't think they do it enough, offer people bursaries or scholarships. They want the money.
Yeah.
Hyper Island is like 60k. I mean, Miami Ad School is big fucking money.
Yeah.
And they might offer 2 people bursaries or scholarships. It's not enough.
Yeah.
And, my thing is, and I think this is the point when I hit, I realize I'm very lucky that I've worked in a business that is moderately fulfilling to my creative urges.
Yeah.
If you are creative, genuinely creative, and you're a girl outside the M25, that's pretty limiting. And I thought, God, I'm coming up to the end of my career, and I've been lucky enough to have spent it working, making a career out of the talent or something I love doing. If you are creative and you have to go through your entire life not being fulfilled, that's fucking hugely depressing. Yeah. And it was a bit of a kind of Schindler's List moment when I thought like that. I thought, my God, somebody has to do something and try and work out a way of finding people who genuinely want to make the business better and genuinely going to be creative and help them get into the business.
You need to shake up your department.
Yeah, I do. I'll offer you a job. There's the mic on. Well, we're going to get back now, isn't it? I'm going to get into trouble with Big Al.
You have no money.
I can find some money. I can find some money. I'll sell some drugs, or we can find some money. We've got loads of that. It's tough because if there aren't enough people coming through, what do you do?
It's true, but also it's
It'll be different in.
I don't know. I do. Yeah. By the way, I believe what you say. I don't think you're being disingenuous, but I do think there's a lot of chat and a lot of people talk about it. And I said this to you before. There's so much talk. We need to be more diverse. We need to do this and that. And I just think not enough people do.
Yeah.
So it should be reflected in your age. You should be able to turn around and be like, look at my...
You have to have the ingredients to make it work.
No, I agree. I think it is...
People coming through. I mean, at the minute, it seems to be like there's a female creative director, or ECD, being hired every 20 minutes now. Because that's the new currency.
Yeah.
I remember 10 years ago, it was if you were Swedish. Then it was, South American was really hot for a bit. I'm hoping at some stage it might come around. It could be Italians and Pakistanis. Would be great, wouldn't it?
Creative team, done.
Pump the money up.
Yeah.
But I think, it's just the way it is. I think we go through trends. Right now, I know, and we do it at our place, everybody's sitting there going, we need a head of planning or head of creative who is young, sassy, female, not a geezer bird. That's one of the other issues, and I know it's a stupid comment, but a lot of women in the business are become as revoltingly ambitious and dangerous as some of the blokes who run the business. And they're the ones you really got to watch out for, because they're not on your side.
Yeah.
And but we just need more people like that, more people who don't come from the wrong kind of background that are going to come in and make it all right.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to move on. Because we could talk about this forever, couldn't we? So you, personally, you're very creative outside of the industry, obviously. Is there anything that intimidates you? Like, is there anything you get scared of? Except for me. Because I feel like you're scared of me, maybe? I don't know. I'm really holding back here, by the way, guys. Really holding back.
I feel that.
I just feel like it's the right
There's nothing anymore. It's weird. Like I said, once I've started working for somebody else, and I don't mean this to sound cocky, but I'm confident now. I don't know what it is. It's just that you get to a certain age where you just think, I don't worry about what other people think. I've never really cared about what other people think. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't think about what other people think. There's so much stimulation and there's so many things that you need to think about. I remember for years and years I was very not lacking in confidence, but I was always worried about what my mates in advertising think or what my boss thinks. One of the things that I found really difficult was when I started, when you're working for your boss or your group head, you have layers above you and you're employed. You think you're being employed to sort of do the stuff that you're good at, but you've got to hit these hurdles and you've got to do the work that they like. And then when you get panicky, you then start thinking, shit, I've just got to do something that my boss will like, which is the wrong. And the minute you do that, you let go of your own intuition and your own gut and your own instinct, because you're worried about somebody else, and you have to worry about the client likes, what the head of planning likes, anybody that's employing you worry.
Yeah.
Now I don't really care.
So I remember in my first year, one thing people were like, you really need to be super thick-skinned to get through the industry, and thankfully I have relatively thick skin, but for a long time I used to be like, what if you don't? What if you're really, that's just not the way you are? Yeah. And one thing I'd ask you is, what advice would you give to young creatives on dealing with rejection? Because you have like 9 out of 10 ideas will be rejected, and it's just like brutal. It is like, that is shit 10 times within 20 minutes. And it is, when you have an idea, it's like a small child, leaf or drizzle.
Yeah.
Amazing. But
I think it all depends on how you deal with it. I mean, it's
what advice would you
personality. Never give up. Never give up. Fuck them. And fuck them before they fuck you. And it's like, I don't mean that, and again, it will sound very aggressive, but it's like, I do this thing where I always imagine myself in a fight with the person I'm in a meeting with, and if I could kill them...
That's quite fun, actually.
If I could kill them, I'm all right. Because I think the worst that's going to happen is we'll get into a fight, and the worst that's going to happen will happen to them. I've done it a couple of times when I've been in meetings with really big fuckers. In fact, I had a pitch this morning with an enormous bloke, and I was really worried because he had huge hands. Yeah. I thought he could really do me. But I think a lot of it is, I remember when I had an interview with a bloke who's still working, and he was a mate of my dad's. And I went in there and just said, listen, could I come in and see you? And he was like, yeah, you're a mate. Yeah, I know your dad. Come in and see me. And I went through my book, and he just went, that's shit, that's fucking shit. And he just went through the whole book, and he said, come over here. And there was a skip outside the office. It was about 7 floors down. He went, see that skip? Go and put your book in there and do something else. And I remember I went to a little cafe in Covent Garden. I cried my eyes out for about...
Okay, thinking of you crying is adorable, though.
But it was one of those, those ones where you can't even talk. Yeah. But I remember thinking...
You look a bit like a bear.
Yeah. I didn't in those days.
In a good way, not in like a Butters way, yeah.
But I thought, fucking hell, that's awful. And I was really gutted. And then when I stopped crying and I drank my tea, I went, fuck him. I'm going to try and now work out a way to destroy him.
I like this mentality.
But it was, and again, that sounds too alpha male, but it wasn't like that. It was more to sort of make him think, I don't want to be fucking told by, I think I'm going to be all right. I think I'm good. And I don't want to be told by somebody that ultimately I don't really respect that much now, that wasn't going to be any good.
I have a thing called a boy better know list, which is like basically a list of people that are going to, regret the words they said one day.
Well, but I think that's a really good attitude to have because, obviously if you're going to do that in front of your creative director when he's reviewing your work, that might be a little bit destructive. But I think it's an internal thing of you understanding how can you get better, how can you improve and make your product better. But a lot of that is you getting your own confidence, and when you're coming up with ideas, editing, making sure that when you go in there, you've had to think with your partner or somebody else in the team, is this good? Because you have to ask. I still ask that question all the time. Do you think is this any good? Don't ask family because they're useless at that kind of stuff. Your mum will always go, "It's a brilliant idea. Get that idea and get rid of it."
She's like always, yeah. No, you're very honest.
It's a family domestic.
Excuse me.
But
Stage.
yeah, sorry. But I think a lot of it is just how you deal with it. But it's as you get more confident, as you get more proficient, as you get older, it helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, what time does everyone have to leave? Are we wrapping up around 8ish? Because I sort of want to open
Game of Thrones is on.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is tonight. We've been briefed that everybody wants to leave, so then go home on time. Who are we to take it away from you? But yeah, I feel like I'm happy to open up to the audience. Anyone with any questions? P.S. We primed people with questions, just in case no one asked any questions. So please, anyone? This is one that's been primed. Go for a P and then absolutely.
Come back.
Slightly on top.
Laura.
Oh, hello. No, I'm Olivia.
Oh, interesting. Okay. State your name and where you come from. Is that the line? What is the line?
Where I work.
Name.
I'm about to complete. No.
Go way back. Where you were born.
No one's near. I guess she's touched obviously mainly on our advertising and a little bit on our clients. There's this other person in the room called media.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm struggling a lot with that at the moment.
Well, media. Yeah, go on.
Mainly because I think they are in our client's other ear.
Yeah.
And selling them very bad spots. And
I thought you were going to turn around and go, I work in a media agency. I think
everyone does in this room.
It's like the second last wall, production and media are the two ones that need to be pulled down.
Yeah. Shake it all up.
It's the biggest scam in the world.
And it's where so much of the money is.
Well, and the problem is, it's the only thing that is almost semi-provable, because there's going to be a guy or a girl on a machine that will have all the data, and the only bit of data that most clients will actually get when they work in marketing, and they'll go there and they'll go, if I spend 10 million quid with you, and they'll go, yeah, spend 10 million quid with us. What we'll do is we'll sell you some really cheap TV spots because we get them really cheap, and that's how we make our money. And believe me, media make a fuck of a lot of money. They will then go, and they'll get the run out, and they'll go, yeah, because it will get this many people will look at it, and we know that if this many people look at it, that many people will act. It's the only provable bit of information they've got, because when they go into most agencies, they go, welcome to the magical world of creativity. Come behind the curtain, and we'll show you this magical world. Can't tell you how it's done. Don't ask any questions. Don't look up any sleeves, because it's magical, and that's what you're paying for.
Totally. So
you end up. So creativity becomes this thing that's like completely commoditized, and media is this thing that they pay huge amounts of money for. But the only way you'll change that.
Yeah. Where I was going with, I don't know the answer to this really.
Change.
But yeah, is there anyone doing it now?
Naked came along back in 2000.
Yeah. Worked for Naked.
Pick it up, made it much more interesting because clients went, oh, hold on a second, don't have to do that. Why are there no other media companies that have come about? Why is that?
Because they made sure they didn't survive.
Why do you think? Yeah. It's not in their interest to have other people going, there's a different way of doing it. Same reason that no agencies come out and go, there's a different way of doing it. They either get bought and told, shut your face and carry on doing it for us now, or it's just like, just ignore them, won't give them any business. That's the problem. There is a bit of a mafia. Maybe this is what the IPA needs to come and do. Get all of those people in a room, turn the lights off. I'll come in with a lump of 4x2. We'll sort it all out in 7 minutes. Again, it's on film, isn't it?
She's so excited.
I think it's...
Yeah, I don't think there's a straightforward answer. I just wonder if there's a way that we can start combating that. I don't know.
I think the only way to do it is to do it grassroots. So change the product, change the people who come in to do the product, change the product, work in a better way with the clients so they trust us a little bit more, they respect us a little bit more than they used to. Because they don't really have, there's no reason for any client to respect us. Because most of the time we've been pretty wanton with their money. And then if it didn't work, which it often doesn't, because the product we create has often got nothing to do with the business that they're trying to sell, we'll wheel out some bloke who go, yeah, but hold on, you got 1,400 likes on Facebook. So that's got to be good, isn't it? Yeah. And it's all kind of, nothing's provable. And I think for me, the minute you become a proper business partner, you share much more detailed information and data. And data is the thing that is really, really valuable. Because when you start working, you get creative minds working with data, that's when it just goes mad. It should be a creative revolution. But we've always ignored it and we're scared of it. I don't really understand why.
Yeah, I always wanted to start an agency that was completely transparent in their money.
Well, I think most agencies should be.
Yeah.
Sunshine is pretty good. Karma Armour early days was very transparent with the money. But again, that's part of the vibe that you have to create in a small company where everybody has to feel that when I'm coming in over the weekend, you're not on your yacht. You know, when I'm coming in over the weekend, you're in over the weekend as well.
I have a yacht.
No, 2 yachts.
I'm trying to find someone.
No, but I think a lot of it is just you've got to do the right thing. But media, I think, is a huge issue. But it's like that is a real cartel. Good luck with that.
You've been to the toilet now, you can totally...
I promised I would ask a question. So you were saying that one of the things that you were interested in was helping young people get in. You wanted to set up this kind of like educational facility where people who came from other backgrounds could come into London. With the creative industry, do you not find there's a lot of people that come in from non-traditional backgrounds? So with that in mind, is there more that people could be doing really from a kind of like supporting interns? And if so, this is like 3 questions in one. How does somebody who is kind of like young and basically has no power in an agency help support that?
Well, you've got to, I think, as an intern, you've just got to look useful and be busy. You know, I can't even imagine the amount of interns I've worked with over the last 30 odd years. And there are probably a handful that I sit there and go, wow, they worked it out. You know, you have to be good to start with, but also you just have to get in our faces, but not like an arsehole. You've got to be like on it, thinking about stuff, and just useful. Because when you're useful, people will hire you.
So you're a creative intern, the one female that you have in your department. Is she? Sorry. I'm not bitter at all. I just want to point out now because I feel like, no.
I'm not an intern, I just want to help the interns.
He's intern?
No, I'm not his intern.
Oh.
Oh, wow, I thought that was a weird thing.
Whoa. No.
No, so you're creative intern, are they a pair? I feel like they're a pair. They high five on your website, so I think they're a pair. So do they, which is really fun, by the way.
Thank you.
They're paid, obviously?
Yeah.
Yeah? And do they get briefed like other people get briefed?
They did. In fact, they have been working together for about 2 weeks when they arrived at our place. We had a very big pitch workshop. We didn't have the business, but we did a kind of hot house, and they came in with one of the most senior clients in the UK, and they were presenting their own work. And I'd worked with them for about a week. Yeah. Very, very confident, not stupid. Mm. And in a hot house sort of scenario, you can come up with daft ideas, and it's all, everything is kind of open. Yeah. But they were amazing. And they're both really, really good young team. But the way I look at it is you look for interns who are like junior teams or junior creators. You look for juniors that are like middleweights. Yeah, you want people that are kind of feel like they're ahead of the game. But also when we work with interns, I want to get more out of them than they're going to get out of us. We're employing them. And again, that sounds really horrible.
It does.
I knew you were going to pick up on that. But we've had lots of people in the past who just come in and think it's just a laugh. Let's just have a laugh for a month or 2 months. And that's not good enough, really. I mean, you want people who look at it as an opportunity and they're going to really do the best they can. And we don't. It's not one of those horrible sort of hierarchical systems where it's like you're the intern, you have to do all the shit. I mean, they were doing a pitch, and they were in with the client presenting their own work. No idea what they're going to be like, but you just go, let them do it. If they fuck it up, help them out. Don't beat them up.
I like that.
Do you let the creatives present their own work a lot?
Always have to.
Really important.
Always.
Sorry, that's about 4 questions. Does someone else want to ask a question?
Have to, because it's like I'm not a huge fan of the old model of I remember when I worked at one agency, they called account people bag carriers. I just think it's like
Bad carrots.
Carriers.
Bad carrots is not bad.
No, bag carriers, and I thought that was it's just vile. But again, that's that old model of like how many people who are worth anything in an old model agency are the creators, which is just horse shit.
I agree with you.
And so they all present their own work, and but also those days of the petulant creative who was told by the client that it was wrong or don't like it, who's just going to throw a typewriter out the window. When the day of typewriters, but they would get angry. Whereas now you just go, and when we talk to them, and the only people we hire are people who get that, who go, listen first before you shoot your mouth off. Listen to what the client's saying, because he probably knows. God forbid, he might actually know a little bit more about his business than you do. But a lot of agencies are like, we know everything about your business. Trust us, which is not true. Ed.
Why do you know his name?
Because he looks like Ed Sheeran.
Oh, okay. Oh, right, okay.
Quite mean.
I know, but he's still.
That was actually really mean. Do you know him?
No.
Oh.
Ed Sheeran's bloody. Anyway, let's move on.
100 people. Ed Sheeran. Just him.
Oh God.
It was actually a question about Ed Sheeran. Actually, no. He spoke earlier about wanting to. More people are being entrepreneurial in your business. What policies or processes are you kind of enacting at CP+B to ensure you're getting that? To foster entrepreneurism.
People, I mean, a lot of it is just when you meet people, if they're genuinely creative and they're talking about other stuff they do. We just hired a team. One guy who comes from, I don't know, he's just come from the most random background completely. I mean, he's an artist, he's a photographer, he's a muse for Paul Smith. He just operates in a completely different realm, and I just found him really interesting. And I think sometimes just being interesting is enough. If they're interesting and they're nice people, something interesting will happen. But I think also there is because we're employed by, there's an amazing legacy at CP+B where, they've created their own products. I think a couple of years ago they sold a bourbon brand that they created for themselves. They sold it to, I think it was Bacardi, for like $120 million. And I've worked in plenty of agencies that make their own little products and have little bits of fun. But to create something that's going to get sold to a big brand for 120 million, that's like, wow. Pretty impressive. And for us in London, London has never really flourished. I think they've had some amazing people, but I think a lot of it is luck, timing. There's a whole bunch of different things that will be at that will help you when you start up an agency. And I think a big part of it is from my point of view, there's a kind of how do we in London deliver on some of the legacy that the Miami and Boulder have had. And there's a very high bar, but we've got some amazing talent in our place who just want to try and make stuff. And I suppose my job is just to let them do it. We've got no money, like everybody, and you just sort of go, if we try and do it, let's pay for it ourselves, and we work out a way of doing it. And I love that. I mean, it is that startup mentality where you've got nothing and you've got to achieve everything. And I find that really, really stimulating. And I think the thing is, I'm sure all of you would find that scenario really stimulating. But when you get lots of people that you're doing it with, rather than maybe 2 or 3 individuals out of the whole agency, when you get 40 people, it's amazing what you can achieve. And it's just come up with ideas and then see if you can make them happen. But the hardest bit is that see if you can make it happen, because you need a client who's going to go, yeah. And most times, clients have employed you to do the stuff they know they want. So when you go into a presentation, they go, I want that ad for rate change or whatever it might be. That's their problem at the moment. Sometimes we get carried away thinking about all the other things that they've got to do, or that we'd like them to do, because it's more stimulating for us as creatives. But you've got to work out a format that allows you to have that conversation with your client and share those ideas, however random. You just want to be their creative partner, not their ad agency. And sometimes that might take 10 years to achieve that. A lot of agencies get annoyed when clients straight off the bat aren't doing the kind of work they want to do. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about building a relationship and trusting the people you're working with. You know, if you were a client, if you've ever had a plumber in the house, or if you've ever, you know, had any other service, a mechanic or anything like that, you know, there's a moment of terror. You go, God, I have no idea what's wrong with my car. And this bloke's going to come back and go, you need a new engine. That's going to cost you $2,000. How do I know? Now, how do you trust an agency? You know, clients, they're terrified because if they mess it up, they get fired. And so there's a huge amount of fear that clients have, and also they don't like us, they don't trust us, and so we've got to rebuild that. And you know, with that, when you work with a client and you create something that works for them, they like you a little bit more. And then when you go back to them with an idea that they're not expecting that works for them, they like you even more. And it's just constantly delivering that. And that's what I mean about that entrepreneurial thing, understanding what your role is. But it's tough. But it's not a quick race. You know, good work comes about through good relationships. Nice, Gemma.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
You've talked a lot about collaboration, sort of creativity being democratic within the modern agency, and the agency you're certainly creating it at CP+B. And that, you know, obviously good ideas are coming from lots of places within the business and the sort of hothouse process. But when it ultimately comes to deciding on what is the right idea and what's going to transform, do you just switch me off? What's going to be the most culturally interesting and relevant? Who has that voting power, and how do you decide it? Is sort of a collective decision, or is there one person who decides?
The individual, I think. I mean, you know, ultimately, you know, if you're the ECD or the creative director, it's your call. But I think you have to sort of do it in a way that, you know, I like listening to people and trying to, you know, I'm certainly not stupid enough to think I'm the smartest person in the room, but I know all of you have worked in a room where you have a stupid creative director who does, and I don't think that's very healthy. I think you've got to try. You know, any good team player will have to listen to all of the people in the room and try and work out what the right thing is to do. And I you know, I love being proved wrong, but I think from my point of view, it's just about making sure that it's going to cut through and be interesting. You know, I'll always default to other people who know more about it than I do about anything. But I suppose from so how is it engaging? Is it noisy? Is it fun? I mean, is it big? You know, that's what I mean about when you work for somebody else. When they've got that thing of the elephant, is it the elephant in the room? You're looking at a picture of it. It's the logo on the window. There's no getting away from it. It's not subjective anymore. And so I think it does make it a little bit easier, actually, when you've got a legacy that you just have to look up to all the time. But I think it's the individual. Who's the person in the room that is, like, leading? And then how do they work? What's the dynamic that they create with all the people they're in the room with?
Because I quite like when you slap down an idea.
Thanks, Sams.
Sometimes you need someone to come from a completely different perspective. Like, we have a strategist, Vinny, at Sunshine, who is so fucking honest that he will literally be like, that is shit. Even though, like, everyone else has signed it off. And then you just sit there and you're like, actually, you're actually right. And I really appreciate that. Like, I think the honesty is, as long as everyone's honest and working together, then you sort of go towards the honest answer, even if it's not, say, coming from you.
I think that comes with small companies. I mean, you know, we worked together at Karmarama when it was like 25 people. You know, you're in the room with, you know, the team is often virtually the whole agency. I mean, it's 20 people, and you can, you know, the reason those places are interesting, the reason a lot of those people go there is because they want to work like that. And it's when it gets bigger, and then some egos and process take over, and then it changes.
Does it feel quite big and corporate?
Not what, London?
Yeah.
It's 25. It's 45, 50 people.
I feel like it's really big.
Everybody thinks it's massive.
It's a massive, like, frontage. that sounds dodgy. You know what I mean?
I think what it is like the agency.
Yeah, inappropriate at some point.
The offices in the States, you know, Boulder is like 250 people. I think Miami is quite small now. LA is quite small. I think that
It's so
at some
big.
stage they were like 600 people. They were huge. But London is tiny. 55, 60 people, tops. But it's interesting. I mean, we used to talk a lot about how big do you get before you get bad. And I remember when Karmarama went from 80 people to 250 people very quickly. It was like, wow, that was a big, you know, that's a big jump, big cultural shift. And so when we had our no awards policy, no wankers policy, it made it at least you cut out lots of the wrong kind of people, because it's the wrong sort of people that mess it up. But like I said, it all comes down, it's all individuals. It's like how you behave, what you're like with your staff, what you're like with your clients. If you're a bully, egotistical arsehole, people won't want to work for you.
So someone's a dickhead, right?
Yeah.
In your no a-hole zone, are you just like? What do you say?
I'll tell you what. I think I was in a meeting with you once. With I think it's the same story, but we had a very good planner who'd written a very good brief, and we had a creative team. And this bloke was a cocky wanker, and he walked in and just went, "I didn't think the brief was that good." We were sort of sitting there. We had about 4 teams in there showing work, and the planner who wrote the brief was in the room, and he went, "This fucking bloke." Who, I don't know where he came, I don't know whether he was overacting or what, but he just said, I don't think the brief was any good, so I've written my own one. And I went, seriously? The planner who wrote it is there, she's our head of planning, and you've totally spanked her in front of 10 people who don't know who the fuck you are. Fuck off, just go. And he went all red-faced and apologetic. I thought, you don't say that. If you're trying to get a job, have a little bit of dignity, a little bit of integrity. Don't, you know, I mean, he just made himself look so stupid.
Embarrassing.
So he went.
Yeah.
I don't like people who are like that. You know, we had another guy once who was tweeting. 3rd day at Karmarama, still haven't got any work. Freelancer. Wait, come here. 3rd day, you're not going to get any work.
That is.
And tweeted that out, and it was just like stupid. And he was like, what? So what do you think? You tweet us out that we're idiots. Fuck off.
That is fucking embarrassing.
You know, when you fire arseholes, it really is one of the most stimulating, pleasurable experiences.
I can imagine, yeah.
You know, I've had to do it with amazing people. When you've had to when you lay people off, it's horrible. Horrible. It's brilliant. But like I said, I mean, it's individuals. You know, when people behave bad, we try not to let any in the first place. I think every company that's worth its salt will, you know, you don't want to have idiots messing it up because they will ruin it. But then you've just got to make sure, and also talking to them sometimes. You know, I've worked with people who have just become difficult, and then you just sit there and go, "Why are you doing that?" And then you work out why they're doing it, and just say, "Maybe just stop doing it." I mean, firing people. This is one of the things that really drives me mad. Actually, there's no mentoring in the business. What happens is they go, "You're good. We'll make you creative director." And when you make one mistake, they go, "You fucked up. You're out." And I think one of the things that we don't sit down with people and go, what do you want to do in your business? What do you want to do in your career? Let's work out what you're really good at. Reviews are just like, you did that well, you did that wrong. Did that, good, bad, 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 good, 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 bad, 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 good, good. Pay rise, fired. It's, you know, it's just too simple. Nobody ever sits down with people and goes, I think you want to do more of what you're good at and less of what you're bad at. And it's like common sense.
Yeah.
But the mentoring aspect of the things that we could all do to help each other out. But you can only do that when you're in an environment where people genuinely care about the staff, genuinely care about the business, and genuinely care about their clients. Genuinely care. Have I ever been mentored? Loads of times. Sometimes indirectly, and sometimes, you know, that bloke who slagged me off and told me to put all my stuff in a skip mentored me.
Yeah.
You know, when he was alive.
It's like a life process. I feel like everyone that you meet can be a mentor. I don't believe in just having one mentor. I feel like every honest conversation you have is a sort of mentoring.
Well, and you want to learn off everybody. I mean, you know, and again, it sounds like a real cheesy, you never stop learning in life.
I don't know, babes.
But I think a lot of it is, you know, the minute you stop. I remember I heard a bloke once at a meeting, a very good creative director, somebody said something, and then this guy turned around and said, but he was on mic, so he said, I've forgotten more than he will ever learn. I just thought, oh my God, can you say that?
embarrassing.
Isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
And there's so much arrogance and so much ego and po-faced, you know. And I don't think it makes good places to work, and that's why, you know. You don't want to work in a place like that. Nobody would want to work in a place like that. But that's why I suppose going back to that question earlier about do you genuinely feel stimulated or happy where you're working? If you don't, you should do something about it. Make sure you do something about it, because it was a stupid analogy that I use. Like life is like a box of Pringles, a tube of Pringles that you smash the first 30 because there's so many of them, and then when your fingers start, you go, oh, hold on.
Careful, babes.
And then when you get to me, they're all broken. All those ones at the bottom. And I wished I'd enjoyed the ones at the beginning as much as I enjoyed the ones at the end, those delicate little nibbles. And
quite beautiful.
Yeah. I'll write that. I'll put that on a T-shirt. But, you know, I think it's true. You know, you've got to make sure that you're enjoying every minute, because, like now, if I have a bad meeting, I look at that as half a day that I'm never going to get back. Whereas, you know, you lot, you're all still young. You know, you have a bad week, you can go and do some ketamine and you're all right. No, but you know, you can get rid of it. You'll get rid of it and it'll be fine. Whereas
what's an alternative stimulation to drugs?
Creativity. That's my big making stuff. And I had a day off last week.
You actually take that quite seriously, so now we're...
No, I am, because I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything. And I never have. And but creativity, making stuff, is my big problem. And I went and had a day off, and the night before I had a day off, my missus and kids had gone away because of half term, and I went to the print studio where I screen print, and I was there. I left work at 9, I went in there at 10, finished printing at 2, prepared all my screens, went in there the following morning at 7:30 and printed till 2 the following morning, and did, I don't know, about 40 prints. I was shattered. And I felt so ill. I got home and I was just like completely fucked. But I knew I only had one day to do it all, because I then had to go back to work the following day. And it was like everything, you know, you take a day off work, nobody goes, oh, we'll just do that meeting next week. They just go, all right, tomorrow's going to be really shit. You have to get in at 8 and you'll go on till 9. And that's the problem for me, is that because I've found an outlet for my other creativity, is finding the time to do it. And I try and do so much, because I know it sounds over dramatic, but you're dying. You know, we're all dying.
Yep.
I'm just getting closer to it than you lot are. And I think it's about...
You never know, though.
Huh?
You never know.
Oh, yeah. Could it all happen tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it's like I just want to make stuff. And because I discovered it late, I find it, you can't stop.
Yeah.
You know, I read today that Prince died because he hadn't slept in 4 days. Now, I don't know if he was up all night because he's been doing something, but I think he's the kind of person, you know, that's what it feels like. When you're being creative, you can work out how to do stuff, you just want to keep going. And the problem is when you make stuff, you get a rush of energy, you get like second wind, and then you want to keep going again. And it's, I actually think it's becoming a bit of a problem.
This is why I buy the domain. Honestly, it calms you down for like 25 minutes.
Mate, I'm the same as you. I've got probably 15 domain names. I get emails from people, 123 reg. But I get emails from people saying, 2 years, it's up for renewal, do you want to do it? And I'm like, I don't even remember buying that one.
I know.
Smartprezi.com.
Honestly, there's some which are so strange, and I can't remember why I came up with them. Like one which is pastiano.com. It's something to do pasta, but I have no idea what. It really bugs me. That is a bad one. I don't think that's a good idea, by the way. I know it's bad.
But I think that it's an issue. Being creative forces you to just keep going.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a curse, but it's amazing. God, I wouldn't change it for all the money in the world. But it's that's my vice.
Well, it's 8:10. Is there any other burning questions, or we could wrap up? Oh, there's one. I feel like this is going to be a good one. He's got a pen in his hand. He looks serious.
Very serious.
Clear the throat as well. When there is an a-hole in your way of work, you mentioned walking out. Now, for young people who are trying to get a decent CV going, they can't necessarily keep moving from agency to agency. So my question is, if you have to get in bed with an a-hole, how long should you do it for?
Well, Well, it's a good point, because I think, you know, at any stage in your career, sometimes doing things you don't want to do is actually better than doing things you want to do. I found I've learned more stuff from bad agencies, way more stuff from bad agencies than I've learned in good agencies, because what it does is it makes you understand what you're not good at, or what you're good at, and what you do want to do and what you don't want to do. The issue, I think, a lot of the time is that people in this business sort of get like, oh, I've got to do 2 years everywhere. I remember I met a team once, and I was trying to hire them at Karmarama. And I said, how are you enjoying the job you've just got? And they'd been there about 6 months, and there was a pause, and you knew they were hating it. And I said, well, you know, why do you hate it? And they said, well, because they make us do stuff that we don't instinctively feel is right. So we did a pitch the other day, talked to the client. We knew what kind of work they needed. We knew what kind of work was going to be good for them. And then the agency made us do something that was just so wrong for them. I said, well, how did you feel about when you did the pitch? And he said, well, we lost it. And we felt really annoyed. But then the agency came out and went, fuck them. Clients in it, thank God, we've just illuminated, we've shone a light on another stupid client who doesn't know how good we are. And, you know, that's pretty bad behaviour, pretty demoralising for anybody who is on the receiving end of that. But also a lot of agencies, they create this cult status around it. Great, we're in a business of flushing out shit clients. It sort of feels like you're then setting up an agency like the kind of place that Gordon Ramsay would work, which is just shouting and fighting and aggro. Whereas ultimately, what you want to do, you want to create an environment that everybody has a good time. The a-hole thing, what was your question again? What was the...
If there's one obstructing you, do you get in bed with them for more than 2 years?
Think of it like any relationship. You know, we all go through bad relationships. We don't marry, or we don't go out with the first person and we kiss. You know? There are lots of different things that come into it. You learn as you get better. I think in the first parts of your career, working in a big agency that's not very good, or working in a crap agency that's quite small, it's all sort of relevant. You'll just learn lots of different things. You don't want to wait too long. You know, I remember I worked at JWT when I was a student, and I went into the creative department, and everybody was moaning about how bad it was. And then I think like 6 years into my career, I went and worked there again, and they were all still there, moaning, doing the same thing. I was like, why have you not done anything about it? Some people are stupid. Genuinely, there was a young creative who used to come in to see me, and he'd go, Dave, I want to come and show you my book. And I got him in and said, yeah, okay, and we had a look at his work. And I said, if I were you, I'd change that, and I think that could be more interesting if you did that. And have you thought about this? And it was trying to be as constructive as possible. And then he rang me up 6 months later and he said, can I come and show you my book again? And I went, yeah, good, it'd be good to see you. Thanks for calling back. And he came in, and I looked at it, and I just went, oh, it's the same book. And he went, well, I disagree with everything you said. And I said, well, what the fuck's the point of coming back in? Because you know what I'm going to say, because I said it. And now you think I'm going to be so impressed by your bullishness that I'm going to employ you. And then he did it again. He did it 3 times. He's dead now. But no, but it was just like, you've got to learn. You know, whenever you work anywhere, you've got to find interesting people who are kind of going to teach you something, and then get your own confidence up. A lot of it is your own confidence. You know, if you're in a relationship, unless you're a bit weird, you're not going to be in a shit relationship. And we've all done it. We've all been in crap relationships. But at some stage, you do something about it. You don't hang around with people outside work who are racist, sexist, unpleasant, violent, whatever. You make a decision. You do something about it. Unfortunately, in work, you know, you need to get paid. But there's a part of your career. Think about what your career is and how do you use the information or the experiences that you're having to help guide you. You know, I worked at WCRS. I didn't like it very much, but I needed a job. And but the things I learnt there enabled me to get the next job. And I've worked at plenty of bad places, but I've also worked at some very good places. And I think it's just life's rich tapestry. You know, you've just got to do it. But if it drives you, I mean, you know, when I left my own agency, it was quite harrowing for about a year because I couldn't work it out. It just didn't compute. You set it up, and now you want to leave, or your instincts are telling you to jump. And it was really, really odd. But then once you realise you're in control, what's the worst that's going to happen? You'll just have another bad day at the office. The best that will happen is you could find another part of your career that will just transform what you want to do, make you happy. And I think the happiness factor is something that is really, really important to me, and it's always been important to me, but I think it's not important enough in a lot of businesses. They don't think about how happy their staff are. When you're happy, and when you're in a group of people who are genuinely happy, because they care about each other, or they care about other people, and they care about the business, it's a much nicer place. You know, I think Karmarama, I think And I hate to keep going on about it, but when you were there was probably, for me, the happiest time I've experienced. Because everybody was mucking in, and it was just an amazing vibe. And you sort of knew everybody, but you didn't know anybody. It was really odd. We were all in it together, but it wasn't culty. It was just nice. It was a really nice place to hang out, and I think that's the kind of place I want to work in, because life is really short. I remember somebody saying to me, "You've got to fill your dash," and I was like, "What do you mean dash?" And I remember seeing it on a film, and then somebody else said it to me. And he said, "Well, it's that little line between your birth date and your death date. It's that little black line is your life." And I love the way of saying that, fill your dash. Fill it with interesting things, and you'll be all right. And sometimes when you've got to go. And often I found that, I remember when I left Hal Henry the first time, and I left there twice, everyone was going, "Oh, it's the coolest, sexiest agency in the world." And I was like, why do I want to leave? I can't work it out. It's just personal. But you've got to kind of trust your instincts. But then also make sure you don't leave after 20 minutes. Because you might learn something. You might learn a lot more after a year. Even though you don't like it, sticking with it, it's your job. And you've got to work your career a little bit. When you look at people's CVs and they're the people that move every 8 months, a year, there's something wrong. But then alternatively, you don't want to keep hiring people that have only ever worked at 2 places and done 20 years in each, because there's something a bit odd about that as well. But it's different strokes for different folks. You just got to kind of work out a way.
Lines.
Yeah.
Everything you say is a bit like a quote. Yeah. Not a bad thing.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Should we wrap up? I hope that was lovely for you all. I really enjoyed it. I did hold back though. Separately, one-on-one. We can discuss the frontage in more detail.
I would do it out there.
Start there?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you listening to us. How many of you are actually going to watch Game of Thrones tonight? Is that an actual thing? They weren't lying. You weren't lying. Oh, I actually thought that was just all chat. So enjoy Game of Thrones, guys. Thank you.